Now, to the United States. Now, we all assume that there are certain hoops one must jump through in order to eventually become the President of the United States. But as we know, convention is just convention, tradition is just tradition, and things can be just pushed completely aside if you are willing to do it in order to win. Perfect example, of course, is what happened with the Democrats, who someone very cleverly decided to expose that the Joe Biden, who they all said was amazing, wasn't that amazing, but then it was all happening before he'd formally become the candidate and was locked in. So, of course, they had the chance to flush him, and they didn't go on a process of trying to replace him. They just went to the number 2 on the ticket, who locked it all up with a couple of phone calls within less than a day. And now all of the things that we know she believes, she now pretends she doesn't believe, but because she doesn't do any interviews, nobody is asking her, so hang on, which one have you changed and why? Why did you believe this then and you believe that now? But because, of course, the media now have what they want, which is a change in the race, a circuit breaker to deliver anything but a Trump victory. Now, amazingly, the Vice President of the United States, who, yes, has only been the candidate for a couple of weeks, but still, you would imagine, has the talent and the capacity to sit down for an interview to explain why I believe this, now I believe that. And not just on, there's so many different issues. But instead, this is what she said to reporters in part of a 70-something second exchange that, of course, they then turn around and say, oh, she takes questions all the time. This is when she is planning to have an interview where anyone, even a soft interviewer, will have to ask her, Madam Vice President, you believe this, you believe that. Why and what changed your mind? When is she planning to have one? Have a look.
There's been a lot of questions about when you're going to sit down for your first interview since being the nominee. Do you have any update on that?
I've talked to my team. I want us to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month.
Yeah, actually, can we play it again? I just want to make absolutely sure that we all heard with our own ears and we saw with our own eyes. The end of the month?
There's been a lot of questions about when you're going to sit down for your first interview since being the nominee. Do you have any update on that?
I've talked to my team. I want us to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month.
Now, but this is farcical. It's nonsense. The idea that you are simultaneously qualified to be president because you were vice president, but you don't own any of the decisions of the administration that you were co-pilot for is ridiculous. The idea that you could be president of the United States, but I don't have time to sit down and account for why all the things I believed in I now don't believe in is rubbish. The media, we know, are always cheerleaders of the left, and when they have a candidate like Harris, they turn into the PR machine of that candidate. But the idea that people in the business of asking questions go on television like this, on MSNBC, to say, questions. Why do we need questions? There shouldn't be questions. She's just the opposite of everything she's been for the past 4 years, and if you don't like it, you're racist.
What has struck me since Donald Trump's press conference is sort of the highbrow nature of the press coming at Kamala Harris, saying, well, she, in my view, whining that she doesn't talk to us, she hasn't done a sit down with us, she hasn't done interviews with us. Right now, is there a real need for her to sort of, get the imprimatur of the press on her campaign?
Firstly, total garbage. The imprimatur of the press. No, you see, here's how it works. That bloke, by the way, ran the Republican Party in the incredibly unsuccessful period of time from 2008 to 2010. And then because he bags everything the Republican Party is, he gets a home on left-wing television, but they get to say we're fair and balanced because here is a former person who's currently going to dump buckets on their former side. Oh, we're so fair and balanced. The imprimatur of the press. You see, there's 300 million people in the United States, but 150 million that I believe are registered to vote. And you see, any candidate will never have the opportunity to meet all of those people. So what often ends up happening is that you sit down and do an interview with somebody, and yes, millions of people will watch that interview and will be able to get a greater insight into the candidate. But no interviews, no ad-libbing, changing of positions 180 and stealing the other bloke's policies in order to win a state. is not the stuff that a leading democracy is involved with. And I don't say that because the polls have changed and Harris now is the frontrunner. I say it because if it was the other way around, can you imagine what the reaction would have been on panels like that on MSNBC? Oh, Donald Trump hasn't taken a question since becoming the Republican nominee. What is he hiding? What is he hiding? Well, of course, we know he's not hiding. He's in plain sight. So much so that somebody took a shot at him. And after it, he holds press conferences, he does interviews. Literally in the next 24 hours, he'll have a sit-down conversation which will be watched by millions of people with Elon Musk. There will be plenty of other opportunities for people to ask him questions and the inevitability of more press conferences. And he'll either dig deeper holes for himself or he'll find a way out. But the idea that she's awesome, just believe it, is where the biggest democracy, or one of the most significant democracies in the world has got to, gives you an idea about why so many people don't quite trust the narratives that are presented to them. And if you don't agree with those narratives, they find ways to shut you down. We will see the forest for the trees here each and every night, no matter whether it's our politics, their politics, or any issue, every time.